Welcome to In the Lab, a podcast from Luminate, the leading provider of data and insights for the entertainment industry. I'm Andrew Wallenstein, Chief Media Analyst with Luminate Intelligence.
In the war for consumer attention, here's one simple way of drawing the battle lines. On one side, you have the premium entertainment, TV and film, and on the other, social video on platforms like YouTube and TikTok. So to understand how consumers from different age groups navigate this split-screen marketplace, my next guest embarked on some ambitious research she's sharing with us today. Tania Missad, Executive VP of Insights, Research, and Analytics at Sony Pictures Entertainment. Thanks for making time for this conversation.
Hi, Andrew. It's nice to be here with you.
Great. So, what were you setting out to do in this study you call prime time, my time research, and what were the many different ways you collected data for it?
Yeah, our objective for the work, we've been getting so many questions and so many doomsday scenarios around the state of our industry and the state of the premium content industry, and this idea of digital natives are going to fully walk away from premium content and our days are numbered. And we really wanted to sort of dissect that and really understand it at a deep level, understand where attitudes were, why people were choosing premium content, why people were choosing social video. What was that by age? Was it by other characteristics? So we set out to do multimodal work. A lot of our work at Sony Pictures is multimodal. We did a large survey, a nationally representative survey in the United States with over 4,500 people, ages 18 plus, to really understand their behaviors. We also included teens, so there was a readable sample of 13 to 17-year-olds. We did deep Nielsen and behavioral analytics, so we looked at Nielsen data more with a behavioral lens. We did look at sort of the performance of certain types of television shows or movies, but looked at the behaviors in addition to other sources like eMarketer, and we analyzed social behaviors quite a bit with tools like Tubular and TalkWalker that really allowed us to understand sentiment. And then one very unique piece that we did was video ethnography. So normally when you include ethnography in a research study, it's about 20 interviews. We did over 250 ethnographic interviews with consumers that allowed us to really understand the role media plays in their homes. They sort of created these videos in their habitat and sort of gave us a sense of what life is like and how this relationship between social and premium content lives inside their own homes.
You know, when we at Luminate looked at how people apportion their times across media, in some recent survey work we done, we saw that social media usage exceeded that of TV, and TV surpassed film, but short-form video usage was behind those film and TV. So my question is, does that square with your general observations in this study? Is there even a clear hierarchy at this point?
We're finding that there isn't, and it really varies. One of the central, real big ahas of the work was that the original sort of question was about generations, which everybody studies. Everybody studies, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and millennials are moving away from premium content, and Gen X and Boomers are very pro premium content, and that certainly came out in the data when you look at it through the monolithic age cohorts. But what we really started to see was that the interaction was a lot more about life stage and really understanding that preferences change as you enter different life stages. That was really much more of the delineator of behavior. And what I mean by that is when you're in a social life stage where you're a teenager or where you're in a single life stage and your whole life is about your friends, your whole life is about peer acceptance and about forming identity and badging who you are, social media platforms present a wonderful opportunity to do that. You can create your own identity on social media. You can interact with communities that share that interest in your identity. You can get peer acceptance or rejection on social media. So it's sort of perfectly primed for those social stages. Whereas when you enter communal life stages and you're you're having kids, or you're married, or you're with a significant other, or you have a partner. The relationship between content consumption is about negotiating preferences. And we heard over and over from people in those life stages that when I'm alone, maybe I'll still scroll TikTok. But when I'm together, when I'm in my family environment with my kids, we watch Bluey, we watch family movies, or I'm with my significant other and it's not as satisfying to sit and watch an endless scroll of TikTok together. It's much more satisfying to sit and watch movies or a TV series together. So that really was a huge aha that bore out of the diary methodology that we did, where people were really recording in a lot of detail when they were making those choices. And the real distinction was social life stages versus communal life stages. And social life stages tend to be younger. Communal life stages tend to be 30 plus. But in general, age was less of the hard differentiator, and it was more about your life and what was important to you in that life stage.
Got it. So let's drill in a bit further on life
Yeah.
stage. Give us an interesting example of you mentioned communal life stages, right? So what who is typically a communal life stage type? I assume that's an older age person. And what does that mean in terms of dictating their consumption choices?
Yes, the communal life stage really started for us in that point when someone decides to partner or create a family of some kind. And really, that's an important distinction because you are then negotiating what's viewed in a communal space. And so that's usually parents with young kids. The was different. It varied. A lot of millennial parents, like anywhere between 28 to 45, because it ran the gamut of people with young families and people with teenagers in the home. So it's really that sort of family life stage in a way that large communal life stage where a lot of people are living in a home and negotiating preferences of media consumption. What we saw in the younger family stage is that they're negotiating, the parents are negotiating their own what they want to watch as a couple. And usually, men would say, like, I watch YouTube and I watch TikTok on my own to sort of get fantasy football or get involved in the things that I'm interested in. And women also go to social for interacting with friends or whatever their own personal interests are. But when they sit together as a family, they're watching Bluey, they're watching kids' content with their kids, or they themselves are sitting together and watching a good crime series or a good medical drama together. Their choices really shifted in that life stage. And when you compare that to someone that's single or someone that's in their teen life stage, they are really making more of the choice of it's my own time and my free time, so I can watch whatever I want. Sometimes I'm going to watch premium content, but a lot of time I'm going to interact with social because that's where my friends are, and that's where a lot of the interests I have can be borne out.
And are we at a place where is there anyone, I guess, particularly on the older end, that is social is not even a part of their consumption picture? They've grown up on premium and it's premium all the way, or has social really at this point fully immersed itself across all age groups, just to varying extents?
We do see more of an immersion where social is across all life stages. The one group, we're calling them empty nesters life stage, roughly, over the age of 60. That life stage, there's more people in that life stage that really actively do not use social media, about 1 in 10. But still, that means 90% do use social media. So there was nowhere in any life stage where social wasn't part of their daily media diet. It was always a part of it, just for varying degrees, definitely for different interests. That was really fascinating. But the one life stage that maybe uses it less and uses premium content a lot more is the empty nester life stage, where they really are negotiating usually just their own interest as a couple or at home, and they grew up with majority premium content sort of as the core, and they're used to and like that content quite a bit. They over-index on so many genres and they watch so much television that they're a very important target.
So it sounds like for those in life stages where you're not single, you're interacting with other individuals, whether it's a couple or with kids, premium entertainment seems to be something that brings people together in a way that social does not.
That's correct. That was one of the great ahas. I mean, social serves very important purposes for people. It's a quick fix. It's there for laughter. A lot of people turn to it for comedy, quick comedy. They can pass the time. But it really, a lot of what we heard about premium content is this opportunity to create community. It's a place where people come together to enjoy things that are, more narrative driven and more invest in relationships in a way that people can sort of bond over and relate to. And that was really wonderful to hear that the role of premium content is quite emotional for people and really brings them together to talk about that life that they're going through or their interests, but brings people together.
But it's funny, I think about with my own experience and my own family, and certainly what you're saying holds true. You sit and watch a movie with wife or children and or husband and however, but I also do sometimes look at social being a connector just in a very different way, whereas I may share something I see on TikTok with other members of the family. And to me, it's almost just as much a connector as premium. But does the data not suggest that?
Yeah, it's just a different type of connector. It's really interesting because we talked about this quite a bit. It's still an individual experience in a way.
I
And
see.
that is the difference that social media is sort of like personal, very personalized to you and an individual viewing experience. It's usually in vertical video, it's usually alone on your device. So even when you're sharing and you're both laughing at the same moment, you
Mhm.
might be laughing in different spaces, right? You might be sending a funny video to your significant other and they're somewhere else and they laugh at that and maybe you'll talk about it later. But really this aspect of really being together and enjoying an experience together, not unlike like going to theaters. That is the role that really the important benefit that it plays for people in the communal life stage. It brings everyone together in a way that people can have a shared experience and enjoy being together.
Now, to some degree, what we're talking about here is sort of a false construct when we're saying, premium over on this planet, social on this planet. Talk about what you call the feed social TV feedback loop, and what does it tell us about the relationship between these two worlds?
Yeah, what we saw, while we saw those benefits, that social has this more individualistic sort of benefits and it feeds identity and premium content feeds community. We did see in every life stage, everyone is making those choices every day of when do I watch alone, when do we watch together, and what are those things that feed those needs differently. So throughout, people are engaging with social. And one of the really interesting things that we saw is the topics that tend to reign on social media, on YouTube, the top 15 topics and themes and millions of views on TikTok and on YouTube aren't really inclusive of premium content. So they're going to those areas to look at hair videos, ASMR videos, gaming, anime to some degree. That was the one area, especially where Sony plays, that we were glad to see was in the top 15. But for the most part, it's unscripted, user-generated content that they're engaging with. So one of our challenges was, how does premium content break in then? Like, how can we help premium content have more virality and play more of a role in those spaces? And so we started studying the shows that do have the most social viewing. We first sort of laid them out by these communal versus social life stages. And we saw that those shows that are in the social life stages tended to also be the shows that had a stronger presence on social media. These were titles like Our Own K-Pop Demon Hunters or Last of Us or shows like Squid Game, like really hits that are very, very germane to those younger life stages. Love is Blind. Strong presence on social media. And we started to try to really study those that are doing it well and understand how are they generating the social TV feedback conversation where they're interacting between the two mediums. And what we saw, the social TV feedback loop is essentially you start by ideally your content has something in it that already lends itself to going viral. I'm going to give the example that everyone's talked about, Perfect Couple, right? That had a music, a dance sequence for its title sequence that had nothing to do with the show, really. And it was created in part with the hope that it would go viral, which it did. So they were already creating content with something in it that could potentially go viral. That's the first step. Ideally, your show has beats that can maybe translate to virality. But then once your show launches, and if it has topics and themes that appeal to social life stages, that social life stage group will take it and clip it. And then they will also start to, so hopefully there's something in there that allows it to, whether there's music or relationships to beauty or fashion or makeup or gaming or something that is germane to politics today, that will help it create conversation. And then if there's an attachment to lifestyle, if there's an attachment to something that people already go to social for. So for example, Summer I Turned Pretty had great music, right? And people already love Taylor Swift, and that allowed it, that combination of a love story and a love triangle with great fashion and a great location, plus this great music, had all of the trappings of what people like to talk about in social. And then towards the end of that social TV feedback loop were things like cosplay and trend and sort of dress up, things that people like when they become the characters and it's really part of their life versus it's just they love parts that are in it, but it's not them yet. That came later in the social feedback loop. But all of those things work together to sort of drive interest back to your show, right? So the clips, then the lifestyle pieces that attach, music ideally, cosplay, go back and forth and feed the loop of the interest in your show. So we looked at a bunch of case studies, and we really saw that those shows that have social life stage appealing themes that give the opportunity for the fan to take and clip the show and create their own world with it and see themselves in it really had much more success on social, becoming more of a socially viral show than those that maybe were more precious about the content and maybe more traditional in the way that they market the content.
And I think what's so important about that point is that it's easy and simplistic to look at this sort of, premium versus social space and conclude one is just cannibalistic of the other. You're spending time with one, therefore not the other. When in fact, what we're saying here is harnessed correctly, social can be a tremendous driver for premium entertainment.
100%. We got into great debates with people internally about, well, that would have never gone viral. And really, when you see shows, a lot of our shows have those dynamics. A lot of television has those dynamics that people like to talk about on social media. Love triangle, perfect for social media.
Mm-hmm.
Thirst trap, attractive people, perfect for social media. We call them thirst traps. If somebody takes their shirt off in a television show, that is perfect for social media. Like, when you look at Summer I Turned Pretty, Jeremiah and Conrad on the beach, perfect for social media. Love stories, perfect for social media. Conflict and frenemies, perfect for social media. Storylines that we're used to in premium content that are perfect for social media. So it's about making sure you're giving the fan enough of those things that create that conversation. I mean, people love to talk about the polarization in culture. Adolescence, for example, was a wonderful example of something that went very viral in the discussion of the manosphere and how well they played that out. There was also a lot of interest in the oneer and lots of social conversation about the oneer. So lots of different ways in which you can give the fan something to talk about. And it then creates maybe an opportunity for your show to attract the social life stage folks that tend to be younger.
So social can be additive to premium, but I also don't want to gloss over perhaps the other edge of the sword here, which is, I guess what I'm asking is, despite that additive potential, isn't it still true though that social can be cannibalistic and time spent watching film or TV that goes to social means social is still a competitive threat?
It is. I mean, by what we found by life stage was really fascinating, is that the place where it is much more of a competitive threat, but it isn't what was great is that it's not that premium content is to zero, but when it comes to teen and single life stages, the interaction with social media is about 35%, and the interaction with premium media is about 20%. So in those two life stages, because they're highly social, they're interacting with their friends, social media feeds that cycle. They're spending more time with social media. It feeds their social life stage. When it comes to communal life stages, young families, teen families, empty nesters, we saw that the relationship between social and premium media was equal. The amount of time that they're spending with social media is the same as the amount of time they're spending with premium content. So like we said, social is still, it just is part of our life now, and it has been for many years. It's ever present, but the percentages really equal out as you enter those communal life stages where they're spending time on social, but they're spending equal amount of time with premium content as they enter communal life stages, which we thought was wonderful to see. And that then they can coexist a little bit more. And it's more about the needs. What needs do they drive? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, do you feel that? I guess what I'm wondering is, did you encounter what I would assume would be the worst case scenario, which is Gen Alpha respondents to your survey work or interviews that were like, TV, film, gone, not even in my vocabulary. I am only social. Is that just like a boogeyman nightmare, or
It,
there is some truth to that?
and we did thousands of interviews. In our work, we didn't come across anyone that said, I don't watch that at all anymore. Because if you think about premium content, it's still such a part of pop culture. It drives conversation. Look at something like K-pop Demon Hunters, which we're very proud of, like a phenomenon across so many age groups. There's still premium content that comes along, and even if you haven't seen anything in a while and you're just watching, unscripted videos on YouTube, something like K-pop comes and everybody's talking and watching and wants to be a part of that phenomenon. So we didn't find instances in which people had completely rejected it. We do find instances in which it's highly competitive. I will say one area where we saw it really fascinating impact is in comedy. Because people are turning to social for that quick fix of comedy so much, and their memes and things that make them laugh quickly. And comedy, as it's always been defined in premium content, is 30 minutes or less.
Yeah.
So people are competing a little bit more. That's a place where it's highly competitive, and you can see it, like the commissions and comedies are way down all over our industry. People are getting a lot of their fix from library. So you definitely see a little bit more of an impact with comedies because social is addressing it as a quick fix. That quick need to laugh comes from social. That being said, consumption of Friends and Big Bang Theory and Young Sheldon, they're still some of the most consumed shows on TV. So it's not a zero-sum game, but we definitely see some places where maybe it's playing more of a role. And we need to figure out how to get people back to loving the kinds of stories that are told in premium content.
So this research that you've done, it captures a particular period, a recent period, and that's super valuable. I'm just curious, though, is it possible you do the same research in a year or two, and the way this media world is moving, you would be looking at a very different space, and therefore, what does it say about the potential long-term resonance of what you've captured now?
Yeah, I think that it's incumbent upon us because the world is changing so quickly and sort of with the advent of artificial video, you have to be on this all of the time and really understanding what's changing in behavior. We're still seeing a lot of interest in. There's clear benefits of social media for people and that connection that people have, but there's this interesting backlash in certain countries where they're limiting usage and how that's going to change trajectories. And especially under a certain age group, you see the things in Australia where people aren't allowed to use social media before a certain age group, or in American schools where people are pulling back from allowing kids to bring their devices to school. So those kinds of things are really interesting to watch. But I think the cat is out of the bag. It's going to be here to stay. And I think it's really important to constantly be assessing how is AI going to affect people's interests? Are people going to like that content more or less? How is this backlash towards what social video has done to kids? How is that going to affect consumption patterns in the long term, in the long run? So I think it is very important with how fast things are moving to be constantly studying behavior and audiences and making sure that we're on top of the changes that are happening in culture.
Well, we'll just have to check back in with you again year after year because I have a feeling this data is going to keep shifting, but it is an important subject. So congratulations on this research, Tania, and thanks for joining me for this conversation today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.